people can literally spend years or even decades living a life that no longer reflects who they actually are. And the craziest part is, it is not because you are weak. It's not because you're like intentionally lying to yourself. It happens because the human brain is hardwired to protect familiarity.
It absolutely clings to it.
Exactly. It'll violently defend your current reality, even when that exact familiarity is making you absolutely miserable.
Yeah, that is the paradox of the brain.
So, if you are listening to this right now and you've been having that terrifying, isolating thought in the middle of the night, the I don't know who I am anymore thought, we want to tell you that this feeling isn't the problem.
No, not at all.
It's actually the very beginning of finally seeing yourself clearly.
It is the exact moment the fog starts to lift.
Yeah.
I mean, the panic you feel isn't you breaking down, it's you waking up.
Yes, that is exactly it. Welcome to this episode of the Living Better podcast.
We are so incredibly grateful to have you here with us in this community.
Yeah, having these deep, really necessary conversations. And hey, if you want to keep growing with us, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But for today, we are setting a very specific mission for this episode.
You really are.
Because if you've tuned in, you are probably exhausted by generic, empty motivational speeches. We are not going to tell you to just love yourself.
Right, because, I mean, let's be honest, that doesn't actually change anything when you're staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. It's just an empty platitude.
It totally is. So we are flipping the usual script today. We aren't going to spend 90% of our time together just complaining about the problem of feeling lost.
We've all been there. We know how it feels.
Exactly. Instead, we are going to unpack exactly how you change the actual physical evidence your brain uses to define who you are.
We're talking about the actual mechanics of identity today. Because to figure out how to stop feeling lost, we first have to, completely shatter the biggest lie we have all been sold about identity.
Oh man, lay it on us.
Well, from the time we are kids, we've been taught to treat the authentic self like it's buried treasure, like it's a static, hidden, glowing orb deep inside of your chest.
Right, like you just have to dig for it.
Exactly. And the myth is that if you just take enough personality tests or read enough self-help books or journal hard enough, you'll eventually dig it up, dust it off, and suddenly understand your entire purpose.
Like a magical revelation.
Right. But neuroscience shows us something entirely different. Identity isn't something you discover. It is something you repeatedly create.
Okay, wait, hold on. I need to challenge that a little bit because that sounds almost depressing at first glance.
Depressing. How so?
Are you saying we don't have a core inherent self? Like, if I consider myself a highly creative person or writer, but I have to stop writing for 5 years because life gets in the way, bills, kids, a demanding career.
Right, the usual stuff.
Yeah. Are you saying I'm literally no longer a writer? Does that identity just, vanish?
Well, it doesn't vanish like magic. It fades biologically. Think about it through the lens of neuroplasticity. Your brain is incredibly efficient. Its primary goal is to conserve calories.
Okay, makes sense.
So it doesn't build your identity out of your memories or your good intentions. It builds your identity out of current physical patterns. The famous saying in neuroscience is, neurons that fire together wire together.
Right, I've heard that.
But the opposite is also true. Neurons that don't fire together wire apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you don't write for 5 years, your brain literally prunes the neural pathways associated with that creative identity just to save energy.
So the creativity didn't vanish. The physical evidence of it did.
Exactly. You stopped giving your brain the receipts.
That is terrifying, honestly. But it makes so much sense. We don't lose ourselves in one catastrophic cinematic event. It's not a massive landslide.
No, it rarely is.
I've always thought of it like reverse erosion. It's just 1,000 tiny drops of compromise that eventually build a massive, impenetrable wall between you and yourself. Like you prioritize urgency over meaning just for one day. Then you adapt to an expectation. You stop saying no. And the profound irony is that everyone around you claps.
Oh, they love it.
Right. They say, wow, you are being such a responsible adult.
Yes, you are literally socially rewarded for abandoning yourself.
Yeah.
You get the promotion, you keep the peace in the family, you are the reliable one that everyone can dump their problems on.
And everyone thinks you're doing great.
Exactly. And this leads to this incredibly confusing, agonizing guilt. Because you follow that path, you can build a highly successful, life great income, beautiful family, stable career around an identity that you have actually completely outgrown.
Because you were just playing the part.
Right. Everyone thinks you have it all together, but internally, you feel like a stranger in your own house. And then you feel guilty for feeling bad because on paper, everything is perfect. But we have to separate those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Fulfillment and alignment are not the same thing.
Yeah.
You can be highly successful and completely misaligned.
So if I'm tracking this, if we've drifted away through these 1,000 tiny compromises, how do we get back?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because the instinct, and man, I have fallen into this trap so many times, is to just sit around and wait for inspiration to strike.
Which is the single biggest trap in personal development, period.
Really?
Oh yeah, people think, I need to wait until I feel like myself again before I can start doing the things I love. They wait for clarity, they wait for confidence, they wait for this magical surge of motivation.
Like lightning is going to hit them.
Right. But biologically, emotions do not create identity. Identity creates emotions.
Okay, let's ground this because this directly contradicts almost everything we're taught. I always think about learning to play the guitar.
Perfect example.
Nobody wakes up one random Tuesday just feeling like a guitarist. You don't get the emotion first.
Not unless you're dreaming.
Right, you have to pick up the heavy, awkward piece of wood. Often when you really don't want to and your fingers are bleeding and cramping and you just play. That's the action.
Yes, the brutal action.
And through that agonizing action, your brain starts wiring those new pathways. You slowly become a guitarist. That's the identity. And then like months later, you finally feel like one. That's the emotion.
That is the absolute perfect illustration of what psychologists call the identity loop. It works exactly like a flywheel. Action creates evidence. Evidence shapes your belief. And then that belief influences your next action.
So it feeds itself.
Exactly. And the absolute fastest place to intervene in that loop is the physical action, not the belief. You cannot think your way into a new identity from your couch.
Preach.
Motivation isn't a prerequisite for starting. It's a chemical reward, literally dopamine, that your brain releases after you do the hard thing just to encourage you to do it again.
And this is where I have to push back heavily on the culture we live in right now. Because social media constantly preaches this mindset-first mentality.
Oh, the manifestation trend.
Yes, just manifest it. Say affirmations in the mirror. Tell yourself you are a confident, successful person. But if my brain is essentially a biological accountant strictly keeping receipts of my physical actions, it must just see those affirmations as empty talk.
It sees right through it.
It's like telling your accountant you're a millionaire while your bank statements show $0.
That is exactly what it is. Your brain is a predictive engine. It looks at your past behavior to predict your future behavior. It doesn't care what you declare yourself to be in the mirror. It pays attention to what you repeatedly do.
That is so humbling.
It is. If you say you value your health, but you skip the gym for 6 months, your brain keeps a receipt of the skipping, not the intention.
Ouch. Okay. That hurts to hear.
I know, it's brutal.
But if my brain is keeping receipts, does that mean every single time I sit around waiting for motivation to strike, I'm literally just printing another receipt that says I'm stuck?
Yes, that is exactly what you're doing. You are handing your brain irrefutable physical evidence of your own stagnation. And it wires that stagnation into your identity.
Okay, so if we want to start printing receipts of being stuck, we have to look honestly at what is currently shaping us. We need to do an audit of the receipts we are actually printing.
Yes, an identity audit. And the most crucial realization here is that your environment shapes your identity far more than your goals do.
Explain that.
Well, if I were to shadow you for 7 days, just watching what you consume, who you avoid, what you tolerate, what you complain about, who you spend time with.
Sounds like an intense week.
Very intense. But the point is, I wouldn't need to read your mind to predict your identity. I could predict it purely based on the data of your patterns.
Because the patterns are the receipts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because whatever you surround yourself with repeatedly eventually becomes your own inner voice.
Let's talk about the people we surround ourselves with, actually. Because that leads us into the danger of roles. In our environments, to survive, we adapt. We become, the peacekeeper, the high achiever, the people pleaser.
And we do that for a very specific evolutionary reason.
Which is?
For our ancestors, belonging to the tribe literally meant survival. If you were cast out, you died. So your primitive brain learns very quickly, if I play the role of the peacekeeper, the tribe keeps me around. I get love, I survive.
Wow. So it's life or death to the brain.
Literally. Those roles get rewarded so heavily that they eventually calcify. They harden into a shell that we just mistake for our actual identity.
I want to walk through what that actually looks like in modern life. Imagine someone who has played the fixer role in their family for 20 years. They solve every crisis.
We all know someone like that.
Right. But then suddenly the kids grow up and move out, or they retire from the job where they were the indispensable problem solver. The role just disappears overnight.
And that is exactly why major life transitions are so devastating for people. Because you confuse the role with your real identity. Your brain interprets the loss of the role as a threat to your survival.
So you panic.
You panic. You feel like you have literally disappeared. But you haven't. Only the role expired. You are still there underneath it.
But isn't it absolutely terrifying to drop a role when that role is the exact currency you've used to buy love and approval from everyone around you for 20 years? I mean, it feels like if you drop the role, you lose the love.
It is terrifying.
Oh.
Honestly, it might be the bravest thing a human being can do.
Because the stakes feel so high.
Right. You are risking the familiar, warm comfort of being a character in someone else's play for the terrifying freedom of being the author of your own.
God, that's heavy.
But to write that new script, you have to figure out what actually aligns with you underneath all those calcified roles.
Right. And how do we actually do that? Because asking, who do I want to become, is a massive paralyzing question.
It's way too big. The much better question is, when did I last feel most like myself?
That is a really profound shift.
It is, because feeling like yourself is not the same thing as feeling happy. We confuse those all the time.
Oh, for sure.
Happiness is like sitting on a beach with a margarita. But feeling like yourself, that might happen in the middle of a chaotic, stressful moment where you are solving a deeply complex technical problem or organizing a community event or just sitting in a hospital room comforting a friend.
That makes a lot of sense.
Those moments reveal the conditions where your authentic traits naturally emerge. And to find those, we look into what I call the 3 mirrors.
Okay, let's break these down. What's the first mirror?
Mirror number 1 is behavior. You have to forget what you believe about yourself and look brutally at your choices. Your calendar and your bank account tell a much more honest story about your priorities than your imagination ever will.
So it's like we need to be private investigators in our own lives. We have to stop reading the glossy marketing brochure we've written about ourselves in our heads.
Yes. Throw the brochure away.
And start aggressively auditing our actual credit card statements. Like, where is the money actually going? Where are the time blocks going?
Exactly. But behavior alone isn't enough.
Right, because what if my calendar is completely full of things I'm really good at, like accounting or managing people, but doing them makes me absolutely miserable?
Which happens to so many professionals.
Yeah, doing them consistently wouldn't build an authentic identity. It would just build a very competent, depressed version of me.
Precisely. Which is exactly why we need mirror number 2, which is energy. True fulfillment is fundamentally about energy, not just temporary happiness or competence.
So tracking how you actually feel physically.
Yes. You have to pay attention to what expands you versus what drains you. Some social interactions leave you completely depleted. Others leave you buzzing with life, even if you're physically exhausted.
It's a completely different kind of tired.
Exactly. Your nervous system is incredibly smart. It acts like a compass. It knows what aligns with you long before your conscious, logical mind catches up.
So the body keeps the score, but it also points the way. If it makes you contract, it's not you. If it makes you expand, follow it. So we have behavior and energy. What is the third mirror?
Contribution. What problems do you naturally, almost effortlessly, enjoy solving?
Interesting.
Do you gravitate toward fixing emotional friction between people? Are you the one who loves organizing chaos into spreadsheets? Do you enjoy building things with your hands?
Right. What are you naturally drawn to fix?
Yeah, because we have this obsession in modern culture with finding purpose by just staring at our own navels and looking inward. But purpose rarely comes from isolation. It usually comes from being deeply useful to others in a way that feels completely natural to your specific wiring.
Okay, so we audit our behavior, we track our nervous system's energy, we look at the problems we love solving for others, we start gathering these clues.
And you build the picture.
Right. But this is where I think people immediately run into a brick wall. The instinct, the absolute second you find a clue about who you really are, is to overhaul your entire life overnight.
The classic New Year's resolution trap.
Yes, the I'm going to reinvent myself completely by tomorrow morning trap. I'm throwing out all my clothes, I'm waking up at 4 a.m., and I'm strictly drinking raw kale juice.
We've all tried it.
We have. And that almost guarantees failure, doesn't it?
Massive, dramatic overnight transformations are a massive shock to the nervous system.
A shock.
Yeah. Think of your brain's resistance to change like a biological immune system. If a surgeon transplants a massive new organ into your body, your immune system doesn't say, oh, great, a new kidney.
Right, it attacks it.
It says, foreign invader, attack it.
Yeah.
So if you try to adopt a new identity that is so radically different that it feels unpredictable, your brain will reject it like a transplanted organ. It feels biologically unsafe.
Wow, that is a wild way to look at it.
So true transformation requires what we call microscopic integrity.
Okay, explain the mechanics of that.
It means shrinking the behavior down so small that it bypasses the brain's immune response, but keeping the grand vision.
Okay.
So if you want to be an author, you don't sit down and write a book. The brain panics at that. You commit to writing 200 words a day. If you want to be an athlete, you don't do a 90-day extreme boot camp that you'll just quit by week 3.
Right, you'll be too sore to move.
Exactly. You walk for 10 minutes every single day. Consistency builds identity.
Yeah.
Intensity does not. You have to give your brain manageable daily proof that doesn't trigger a survival panic.
It's so ironic, really, because dramatic change sounds so exciting and sexy. You tell your friends, I'm selling all my stuff and moving to a cabin in the woods, or I'm doing a 75-day extreme fitness challenge.
And they cheer for you.
Yeah. But sustainable change is inherently boring. It's quiet. And it requires completely abandoning perfectionism, because if every action is a tiny piece of physical evidence, a vote for the person you want to become, perfectionism is actually the enemy of identity.
It really is.
Because one missed workout doesn't ruin the election, right? It just means you lost one vote out of thousands.
That is the perfect analogy. One lost vote does not overturn the results of a lifetime of consistency. Action requires movement, not absolute certainty.
Movement over certainty.
Yeah. Think about trying to steer a parked car. You can turn the steering wheel all you want, but if the car isn't moving, you aren't changing direction.
That's a great visual.
Even making a mistake provides your brain with physical evidence and data to course correct. Indecision, perfectionism, paralysis, those provide absolutely zero data. They just keep the car parked.
So we start casting these new microscopic votes.
Yeah.
We write the 200 words, we take the 10-minute walk, we start setting small boundaries, we are building this new identity, receipt by biological receipt.
Step by step.
But as you start doing this, you inevitably hit the most painful friction point of all, the other people in your life.
Yeah. This is, hands down, the hardest part of the whole journey.
It really is.
Because becoming your true self will inevitably disappoint some people in your life. Remember those roles we talked about? Your growth threatens the delicate ecosystem they were used to.
They don't like the new rules.
No, they like the version of you that always said yes, that always took on their emotional labor,
Mm.
that never rocked the boat.
I want to get really vulnerable here for a second because this is something I've wrestled with deeply, and I know so many people listening have too. Personal growth can feel incredibly deeply lonely.
It can be so isolating.
How do you sit with the guilt of outgrowing the people you deeply love when you suddenly realize that the you they love is actually just a role you were playing for them? I mean, it feels like a betrayal.
It does feel like a betrayal, and getting through it requires an immense amount of grief. It requires a radical acceptance of reality.
That's just hard.
Very hard. But you have to realize that external changes, like quitting the job, moving away, dramatically blowing up your relationships, they aren't always the first answer. Internal alignment comes first.
So it's an inside job first.
Yes, you learn to hold your boundaries quietly. And you realize that being aligned with yourself is essential. Sacrificing yourself to maintain someone else's approval is simply too expensive a price to pay for connection.
Right.
And honestly, it's not true connection anyway if it's based on a fictional character you're playing.
Wow. It all comes down to trust, doesn't it? If you're playing a character, you can't even trust the love you're receiving because it's not actually for you, it's for the character.
Exactly. The deepest goal underneath all of this isn't just to find yourself, it is self-trust.
Self-trust.
Because feeling lost fundamentally means you no longer trust your own decisions. You don't trust your desires, you don't trust your boundaries.
You're second-guessing everything.
Right. And trust is not rebuilt by thinking about it in an armchair. It is rebuilt by keeping tiny, microscopic daily promises to yourself. Self-respect is not an emotion you stumble upon. It is earned, physical evidence.
It is earned evidence. I want everyone listening to just let that sink in for a second. Identity is a conversation with your future self.
I love that.
With every boundary you set, every 10-minute walk you take, every time you say no to a demand that drains your nervous system, you are introducing yourself to the person you are going to become.
And as we do this, we eventually have to confront the reality of our past choices. Because if identity is built by daily choices, we have to look back and recognize when those choices weren't even ours to begin with.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so much of what we do is driven by invisible expectations, societal conditioning, the unhealed patterns of our parents.
Oh, absolutely.
Part of building self-trust is having the courage to look at a behavior, realize it's a calcified role, and say, that isn't me, that's my conditioning, and I choose to stop doing it today.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Let's bring this all together.
Let's do it.
You do not find yourself by staring into the past or waiting for motivation or trying to think your way out of a rut. You build yourself, starting today, through the microscopic integrity of your daily physical actions. Stop asking the terrifying question, who am I? The much better, much more powerful question is, who am I becoming?
It entirely takes the pressure off the past and puts the power completely back into the present moment, where you actually have control.
Exactly. We've talked about how every single action is a vote that creates evidence for your identity and how your brain fiercely guards familiarity. But what would happen if, just for one day, you intentionally engineered a moment of pure positive shock to your own system?
Oh, I like where this is going.
Right. What if tomorrow you deliberately did something wildly unpredictable and completely out of character, something totally safe, of course, but wildly unexpected, just to prove to your own brain that the cage door is actually open?
To show it that you aren't tracked.
Exactly. Maybe the ultimate freedom isn't finding the perfect identity. Maybe it's the subtle realization that you are holding the pen and you have the power to change the script at any second.
I love that so much. A visceral reminder that you are the author, not just a character in someone else's play.
So true.